In this topic, we're looking at the innovation landscape, and the way that I'll cover it is to gallop through what I call a very short course on innovation. And we'll cover some of the basic perspectives to help you interpret innovation ideas. And so while we'll cover some of these later in the course, we're also going to give you a taste of what they are and give you a feel for how they might fit, and sort of have you dip your toe in the water for what these topics are. So let's get started. We're looking at innovation as a concept here. And when you think about innovation, I think the fundamental thing about it is that if you think about innovation as a process with identifiable steps, that's a very important thing. So you want to frame your understanding of innovation as a process with steps. And in those steps, people play roles in the process. Every step, different people play different roles. And so you have process steps and you have roles. And you could also say that if you look at, as I have in a number of the other courses that I've taught, we've taught this from the perspective of various different disciplines. From the discipline, obviously, of management here, but also from economics, from history, from sociology, from psychology. There are all kinds of ways in which you can look at the field of innovation. And there are many people out there who have written books and done studies and have courses that relate to innovation or from their own perspective, their own disciplinary perspective. And we could say that innovation is, in that regard, part of many, many frameworks. It's part of the business framework. That's the framework we're looking at. But it's also the framework of organizational behavior. It's the framework of teams. It's the framework of individual entrepreneurship. It's all kinds of different frameworks. And so we'll be aware of what those frameworks are, but we'll also begin to focus on them as we look at different topics. But we can also say that innovation can be systematically modeled. And our job is to begin to recognize how those models work and how we can understand innovation by looking at how it's modeled. The other fundamental concept about innovation is that it produces results and it adds value. It's not just that it produces results, because if just is producing some kind of result that doesn't add value, it won't qualify as an innovation. So let's talk about a little bit about what innovation is not. Popular beliefs about what innovation is and is not are in many publications, many conversations, perhaps many courses. And certainly it's not just artistic creativity. Now you might argue that, well, artistic creativity adds certain value, it adds some aesthetic value, and I wouldn't dispute that, but it doesn't add value in the marketplace for customers. It's not just an invention. You might say, well, isn't an invention a real breakthrough? Yes, it is. But an invention that, let's say, sits on the shelf of the patent office without actually being implemented in the marketplace is not going to produce an innovation. It doesn't add value in the marketplace. Innovation is not just a bright idea. We all have good ideas. But if we don't do something with those ideas, if we don't take them to the next step, they're not going to be resulting in innovation. Innovation is not just problem solving. Problem solving could help fix something but not necessarily improve it. But what innovation does is it solves a problem and improves the way in which the problem was addressed prior to the problem solving effort. And innovation is not simply basic incremental improvement. It's not just making something go a little bit faster, not making some process work a little bit smoother. It's a significant, in some cases, a radical improvement. So these are things that innovation is not, and we'll begin to differentiate how innovation isn't these things and how it is something that adds value. So also we could say, this is another basic idea, we could say innovation occurs at different levels. One could argue that with the individual, that where you have creative skills and ideas and you're active and doing things, yes, you can be innovative, but you're not necessarily producing an innovation per se. The same thing goes at the team level. You're not producing an innovation even though you may be engaging in innovative activities. When we get to the large unit or the organization, where if you look at the purpose of an organization, something that is structured for a particular mission, a particular goal, a particular purpose, sometimes a profit-making purpose, sometimes a not profit-making purpose, even a governmental organization has a mission. There is where you have innovation roles that get defined, and you have an outcome that produces value. So at the individual level and at the team level, you're doing innovative activities, but you're not in the realm of an organization that is ultimately producing value in the marketplace. Industries have innovation at that level. The steel industry, the automobile industry, the computer industry, all leverage things like new technology to produce innovative results and add value. And at the societal level, or at the marketplace level, we're thinking about large-scale views of the landscape of innovation. The way in which you look at innovation is to see how it is diffused, how it is moved and adopted by different groups, different organizations, different competitors, and how that works. And so those are the ways in which we can look at innovation at different levels. I would argue that innovation at the individual and the team level is really mostly creativity. When you get into at the organizational level, where organizations have missions and purposes, that's when you begin to see innovation producing value for a user community. So we can look at three views of innovation as a process. There are new product success factors, and the process that you can use to get to a new product has innovative success factors, and you can look at innovation as new product development, which is the very common way in which innovation is looked upon, because we usually can look at and identify and recognize innovations as products, the products that we use, the smartphones, the televisions, the clickers, all the different tools that we have that are products. We can visualize, we can put our hands on them. They are recognizable. So innovation as a product development, new product development, is easy to spot. Innovation as a new technology isn't really as easy to spot for those of us who are, let's say, people on the street. For people in research and development labs, they would begin to see new technologies. They could be biotechnologies, they could be information technologies, they could be other kinds of technologies, where you can begin to view innovation as a process that will produce these technologies. And then finally, innovation as a management improvement. This is the whole world of making organizations run better is really driven by taking advantage of innovation opportunities to make organizations run better and more effective. So let's first look at new product development as innovation. And you can see in this list of steps, the steps that it takes to run through to ultimately get down to the bottom, which is to support some problem solving and improvement and add value of that new product. That new product, the demonstration of whether that new product adds value in the marketplace is whether or not it is being used by lots of people, and ultimately whether it's being sold to lots of people. Another way is to look at new technology as a trigger of innovation. So the steps there are that you recognize a breakthrough technology, or you discover it, or you recognize a user need and you respond to that need with an idea that has a technology application, and you translate that into some form of solution, and you ultimately have it be adopted by users, and I think we see this daily. Management practice as an innovation is another way to look at innovation, where you You can go into an organization and observe needs and opportunities. Management consultants do this all the time. They walk into organizations and see that there are things missing, there are things that aren't working. Sometimes the idea is simply to fix them. Another way is to bring innovation into the process and say, how can we improve the way in which we do that and do things better in a different way and add value to the way in which the organization operates. So looking at all of these things, and we'll look at this in subsequent presentations, but I wanted to put in front of you a generic set of process steps for innovation. And you know, there are a whole range of them: scanning, recognition, ideation, concept development, prototyping, testing and evaluation, actually producing the product or the service, positioning it, getting it adopted in the marketplace or in the user community, supporting and refining its ongoing effectiveness, and recreating it if it needs to be revised and improved. So it's a cyclical process, but it is, these are the generic steps in any innovation. You can map any innovation along these process steps to understand it. And then likewise, we're going to be talking about innovation role players. And what we'll find, and we're going to be dealing with this in a subsequent discussion, but role players have different functions and different roles in the process of innovation. And they maybe don't have these as organizational titles, but they do play these roles. People spot opportunities. They scan for opportunities. People invent. I mean, we recognize that term. They're the creators of an idea. People test them for feasibility. People champion them to make them work inside an organization or inside a market segment. There are gatekeepers who broker knowledge and information and talent to make things work. There are process managers that orchestrate the innovation process. There are sponsors that provide resources. There are protectors that insulate the creative teams, the skunk works, if you will, in organizations that allow them to be creative and to produce the innovative work that they do. And then finally there's the seller, the role that helps make the innovation work in the marketplace. So these again is a framework for understanding roles in the innovation process that you can begin to layer onto understanding how an innovation works. I want to talk a little bit about the notion of innovation diffusion. This was founded, really defined by Everett Rogers. This was a communications sociologist who really studied how different rural communities adopted different agricultural practices. That's how it began. That's how the look at innovation diffusion began as a study. And so innovation diffusion is the process by which a discovery or an innovation is communicated through various channels or communities by members of that community. So it is a process where a new idea is accepted in the marketplace. And the rate of diffusion is the speed at which it spreads and is used. So you could think about the spread of something as basic as a smartphone and how it has spread. And really, we'll talk about this in another presentation, the creative destruction of the standard dial telephone or the push button telephone, the desk telephone, and how it has been in effect displaced by a smartphone and displaced by the use of a new innovation. And so the idea of innovation, and in this figure here, what we're looking at here is a figure that is kind of a bell curve, and this is the standard way to portray the innovation adoption cycle. And down at the bottom you can see the types of people who adopt various things, and the volume under the curve is really the volume of people that have adopted that innovation. And so what we see on the left-hand side, it's the innovators, or we would call them the techies. Who are the people who first adopted Apple computers back in the 80s. They were the hobbyists, the people who tried things. Even today we have people who are using various innovations way ahead of whoever else is using them. And then we have a larger segment under the curve, the visionaries, the people who are the first adopters, early adopters, and then we have the early majority, and then gradually over time, so there's a time frame and a timeline that goes across the bottom of that curve, and over time, gradually, everybody adopts something. And it may be that some people never will adopt, let's say, a smartphone. There are people who say they're just not going to do it. And so there's always going to be some segment of the market and some segment of the population that is not going to adopt an innovation. But this is a hypothetical way of understanding how innovations are adopted in the marketplace. And so it's a framework for you to understand how that works. And we'll dig into this later in the course, but I wanted to give you a taste of what this vision is about the innovation process. Managing innovation value is an essential ingredient of understanding innovation. There are various ways in which innovation value can be captured. It could be intellectual property management in terms of patents. It could be intellectual asset management in terms of talent that you have in your organization. Obviously, the real talented organizations that even the Procter & Gamble's, I mean, we could talk about Google and say, well, they've really got talent there. But what we've really also found in ordinary organizations, consumer-based organizations, places like Procter & Gamble, have an incredible base of very creative people, and those intellectual assets and the creative assets that they have are really what helps make that company run. And then intellectual capital management, where you harness the hidden value of innovation and you leverage that innovation as capital that helps make your organization work better. Ultimately, we want you to act like an innovator. There's a book out there that is looking at innovation from the perspective of Leonardo da Vinci. And so these are the 7 principles of da Vinci that have been captured, and this is a way in which you can begin to act out and be effective as an innovator. And what you want to do is to scan and look and see opportunities and basically recognize relationships and frameworks. And so there's some systems thinking here, there's some opportunity recognition here, there's seeing how things work and seeing what the effects are. So it's an overall framework of understanding area in which you're operating in. So here's a brief summary of what we've talked about. This is, again, a quick gallop through the innovation landscape. We want you to understand basic innovation vocabulary and concepts. I would suggest strongly that you explore the textbooks index that will build your innovation vocabulary. Not everything is going to be programmed in a chapter and section process, but you can explore that index and dig in there. You'll recognize the 3 basic forms of innovation: new products, new technologies, and new management initiatives. And then you want to ultimately understand how to manage these processes. And that's really what innovation management is all about, is managing the innovation process. But to manage it, you first got to understand it. And so that's what our job is.